Please welcome Lucas Coyle.
Hey everybody. First of all, thank you guys so much. This has been great so far. I've learned a ton. Going to continue learning more. I think for us, a big reason why they sent me here was to learn about out-of-home. We're not shy about this being a new space for us. We've been doing it for a few years, but I wouldn't say there's ever been an expert in the room in Manscaped, so they tasked me with figuring it out, which has been a learning curve for sure. So who is familiar with Manscaped? Raise a hand. Okay, great. So we're all pretty familiar with it. I like to coin it as we found a white space in male grooming, and we provided a product to service that space, that below-the-waist grooming. That's where it started. That was the inception. That's where a lot of you would know us from. A lot of our content that's a bit more kind of like my Mochi's food porn and the Adore Me, like cheeky, fun, humor has always been a huge part of our brand. And that's where we started. And now we service the head-to-toe grooming opportunity. So everything a man would need to trim their beard. We have a whole new beard hedger line and product support that is conditioner, shampoo, scissors, brushes, everything for the beard. We've got the same thing for your body. We're doing shampoos, lip balms, even lifestyle is a new approach for us. We're doing boxers and things like that. So as we grow on this journey, our messaging has had to change. We've had to inform people that we are no longer just the ball grooming tool and that we are a whole lot more now, and getting a little bit more sophisticated with our marketing while not losing our core, not shying away from the funny, provocative lines that have gotten us where we are. So there we go. Maybe not. Perfect. Okay, so a bit more about me. As Steve mentioned, I got my start in sports. I worked for the Raiders first, right out of college. I had no idea what a front office was. They were like, hey, you can do this thing called partnerships, and you manage brands and work with brands and bring them to life through the Oakland Raiders. And I was like, I've been a Raiders fan my whole life. Let's go. So I did that for the Raiders for a little while, about 2 years. Jumped over to the Golden State Warriors. It was a 73-9 season, so I got to be there when Kyrie's step back took away my championship ring that I felt I earned as an intern. And then I worked for the A's for about 5 seasons. So really, when I joined Manscaped, it was because we had just inked this deal with the UFC, with the 49ers, and they didn't really know how to get the most out of it. So they wanted to hire someone who had experience in a couple different leagues, and could also kind of tell them as we grow into these new markets, what's the right price point to get into this. Are we overspending? Are we getting a great deal? They needed me to come in and determine rate card, and then also activate it, because we're investing so much money, but they don't activate themselves. So as you can see, there's a huge overlap between sport and out-of-home, and it's why the natural evolution for me was to take over our out-of-home space. As you drive down 880, you can't miss the Oracle sign on the Oracle Arena in Oakland. We work with Watford, which you'll see in the top middle, and you've got our kind of blurry background behind it on the LED screens. So we're capturing the in-audience, in-venue fan, as well as the broadcast fan. This is the stuff that I can speak to all day, and it really was my bread and butter before joining Manscaped, and it's taught me a lot about approaching the out-of-home space, figuring out impressions are kind of BS. Impressions don't really move the needle. But they also present a great opportunity to storytell and get your brand out there to a new audience or a really engaged audience that when you associate with the right team, they'll really care about your brand and they'll feel a part of your brand. So this was our first big project. When I joined Manscaped, they were like, we have all of the bathrooms at Levi stadiums. We have the right to brand them all. And it's clearly an out-of-home campaign. So what I did is I worked with our creative team, and as a recurring theme today and a recurring theme for me every day is let loose the leash for our creative team to go wild, do whatever you want, and then I'll help reel it in with our partners. This is the most tame version of what we had seen. The opportunities of what we could do, what they wanted to have the refs saying, how vulgar we could be. They wanted to push the envelope, as is our nature, but we dialed it back. the 49ers definitely had some restrictions on us, which I can understand, but they also allowed us to be the below-the-waist grooming partner of the 49ers, which is a designation that no one had ever had before. So they were fun, and they were open, so they were a great first partner for us to start testing this with. And now we're in, we have 12 bathrooms, 250 individual creatives at least, and they're large scale as well. So we were like, the easy route is to just take these like 8.5 by 11s or something like that and put it over the urinals. But since we have the whole thing, let's just paint it. I worked with the signage vendor before, so I knew what they were capable of. The 49ers were like, yeah, just do these places, and these places. I was like, no, I want the whole wall. So these kind of huge, bold approaches is really what's been a core to Manscaped and really what I think a lot of people in the out-of-home space are trying to accomplish. You walk in and you feel like you're a part of our brand. You left the 49ers and now you're in the 49ers and Manscaped. So why do we do out-of-home at all? We've looked at it for a long time as kind of, or I guess some of our CFO looks at it as kind of a waste of money. And then I've been educating him on why it is not just a waste of money, what we can use it for, how efficient it can be, and how great it is when it is quick turn and I can get a message from my boss that says, hey, Ireland looks really good right now. We got to do something in Ireland. A sports team can take 6 months to launch. Influencers can be tough to wrangle. Out-of-home's easy. Out-of-home, I can just call my out-of-home guy or my buddy Tim in Germany and be like, man, let's get started. We got to do something like in the next couple weeks. What do you have? So we've loved that about it. And it does a great job of the serving exactly what purpose we want it to. So is it a product launch? Is it a new campaign that we're educating people on? Are we driving people to retail? It's just so versatile. So we've really enjoyed that about it. And then for us, we try to, as always, it's how do we get the most out of it? The reason we did so much static and for the most part have always done static is because it'll stay up a lot longer. This smoother landings one that you'll see in the bottom right corner is right outside JFK. We bought it for a month, and it's been up for about 1.5 years. So we're very happy with that placement. My boss is like, that's our greatest deal we've ever done, which I don't blame him. The tough thing is it's got our lawnmower 3.0 creative on it, and we've moved on to the 4.0, and we'll soon be moving on to the 5.0. So it's kind of got its drawbacks as well. The same with the smooth one, that's our lawnmower 2.0. So now we're getting really dated, and that lived into the 3.0's lifestyle too. But we have fun with it still. I think a big thing for us is we engage our social team. We have a very active group that we call the Ballers. They have their Facebook page, and they're very vocal about what we do. When we launch a limited edition product like we did with our testicular cancer lawnmower 4.0 last April, it sold out in a week. We did 4,000 units in a week of it, mostly going to the Ballers and their friends because they thought it was limited edition. We got to go and get it. Anyways, we go to that group a lot with like, hey, what do you think of this? What do you feel about this? And that group is engaged. They'll tell us very honestly, this is a miss or this is hilarious. And then they're resharing it. Our social team will just go out to the whole broad group and just say, hey, how does this look? Go check us out. Take a picture with our sign. And we'll get a lot of direct messages or posts, not from large scale influencers, but from just local folks. And then in some instances, we actually will engage our influencers in the area and ask them to go take a photo with it or create some content near it, depending on the signage and the placement. We also engage our PR team quite a bit. Our PR team's always pitching Manscaped, and when we give them something like a large-scale takeover at Penn Station, they love it. It goes crazy. We get a lot more attention for it, and we can leverage it a lot better. Just a couple other examples of that. The Penn Station one really has been a big one for us. We've done it twice now, and I'll get more into this last iteration of it very soon. The Got Bush one has always done really well. That one just people enjoy. Okay, so I'll just go through a few of our different campaigns here, varying places around the world. Some we've seen as huge successes, some we don't know yet. I feel like it'll just be a good idea to walk through our creative process and just what we've been testing so far. The smoother landings, again, that's the big one. And then we've got Miami here. We did this, we were hit up by a digital agency. That's actually an LED right outside Hard Rock in Miami during the Super Bowl in 2008. I believe. The Niners were in the Super Bowl. This is when we signed our deal to join the Niners, and this was actually a free placement. It was a fantastic deal. We were very excited, and it worked really well. We got a bunch of people taking photos of it. So it was kind of our first, let's do more of these, but let's make sure that they're all free. So that was what my marching order was, and I was like, I don't think we can do that. But a good first start for us. 29 Palms is a military base in Palm Desert out here in Southern California. Military Exchange is one of our larger niche retailers that we have here in the States. So we came up with some creative lines like keep your privates in order, keep it low and tight, things like that to cater to the military audience, and just see how this would impact sales. This is one of the campaigns I'm still waiting on feedback from. I haven't heard from MCX yet on how total sales grew in the window, but again, it was Q4, so we're getting close to getting that delivery. But it looked good, and it was a fun thing for us to test, and it was very affordable, so worthwhile. Dublin, we launched our first retailer in Europe was with Tesco this last year. And to get started, they wanted to see us in a small geo, a very localized campaign. We chose Ireland because we do so well in Ireland. They get our cheeky sense of humor, and we can have some fun with them. And they don't mind having a laugh at themselves, so we just go for it. We were scrambling again, like I was saying in the beginning, to find what's the right way to activate this. These 38 bus shelters that so happen to be within 500 feet of a Tesco door seemed like a fantastic opportunity. I would have loved these to have been digital because we were still only caring about this 2-week window to launch the campaign. If these had been digital, we could have actually rotated through all the different products that we have. I've got probably a folder with 100 of these different lines that apply specifically to Ireland, and we only got to use 2 of them. So we've got so much opportunity, and we were limited because it was a static placement. It still worked well, we still enjoyed it, but it's a good example of where the opportunity could have been a little bit better. We also were on these coffee sleeves at a couple different coffee locations in Dublin, pushing people to Tesco locations to buy our new products. We did a 5-city campaign in Germany, and don't ask me to actually pronounce any of these taglines, but this was one where we actually worked with InOcean, because we have a growing employee base from Germany, but it wasn't enough to really task them with, let's make you all copywriters and go to work. So we worked with InOcean, and we came up with a couple of these fun taglines that were very hyper-localized. So Hamburg is known for their fish market, so we have a sign here in the middle on the bottom that is calling out the fish market, and it's saying that you're smooth like an eel going to the fish market. So we have some fun with it. We've got, in Dusseldorf, they have Congas Alley, which I don't think that's the way you pronounce it, but it's called the King's Alley is the English translation, and it's a main thoroughfare in Dusseldorf. And so it also has the German translated word for alley, so we said keep your alley clean and use their full street name. So we just have some fun with it. I Will Survive, obviously making a nod to the famous song, but EI is the German word for testicle. So felt like it was a fun little way to be provocative and have some fun. And these are the ones where I just send the email to our vendor and say, is this gonna work? Are you guys gonna let us do this? And this is my guy Tim in Germany, and he was like, oh yeah, we'll be fine. Yeah, just go for it. This was our first only digital campaign. This was again in Germany. These were taxi cabs driving around Hamburg, and it was my first test at it. I've told you guys my boss was not huge on doing digital-only campaigns. It's great as a part of a package with a static component where it can potentially live beyond the time that we purchased it for. But this was the one that I got approved because it was just a challenging price point, and it was a great first test. So we actually got to target all of the nightclubs, bars, restaurants, places that we knew men would be going to during this time of year, and all of the soccer games, football matches across Germany. So we were able to make sure that these creatives were running as much as possible around there. They would be able to send me these heat maps that showed how it was working, and it was kind of our first time measuring in this way, which I thought was really cool, and it was kind of just great for me to serve to our paid media team, our paid social team, and let them try to retarget these folks again, broadly, not super accurate, but assume that they might be able to see it twice. These are some placements in the UK. We had a great time coming up with these creatives as well. This is actually the Stratford Shopping Centre, which is, I believe, a Westfield mall in London, and was right next to our, we were partners with West Ham United at the time. We had rights to their marks and logos. We put this up at the end of the season, and again, it's that limitation with static where I knew I couldn't put the West Ham mark on it because I was hoping it would live beyond, and if I had done that, I would have had to pay to take it down. So we left it up, and sure enough, this stayed up for 3 more months beyond the purchase time. So we were thrilled, and it was just a fun creative. We got more and more involved in the UK as this was showing an indication that people are signing up for our email subscriptions, actually. We saw a huge rise from this first campaign last July, and so then we started getting into the undergrounds. And I'll show you on the next slide, these were our train car posters throughout the London Underground. And every single day that these ran, we increased 20% in our email subscriptions. So we're exploring, but that's a huge indicator that things are going well. And we didn't expect to see that. We didn't expect to see an increase in email subscriptions through an out-of-home campaign, but we were thrilled. And our international development team was absolutely pumped. And we also had fun with this one too, an education moment for showing what kind of products we have beyond just our Lawnmower 4.0. This is the crop preserver. So the crop preserver is a product that I would akin to like a Tiger Balm or baby powder to keep you dry and comfortable when you might get a little bit swampy or have to deal with that. It's really popular in the South in the summer. So we did this in London on a hot train car in the middle of August. And these just started selling out like crazy. So it's becoming a real tree shaker of a product for us, and we've loved that. We do have a lot of puns too, yeah. And then Penn Station. So this is really probably our best case study of doing anything out of home. I wish I had more measurement tools to share with you all today. Again, we're exploring. We don't claim to know everything about this, but we were very satisfied with just the look, the feel, and the overall takeover impression we got from this campaign. So here's a quick video. Maybe. Perfect.
This is a shakedown. Order up that beat just like it's takeout. Show me you got soul inside those new shoes, and you can rock and roll with an attitude. So good, so fresh, just the way you like it. Just the way you like it. You're the new MC, you got the remix. Keep it on repeat, just let the beat kick. Everywhere you go.
So yeah, so this was alongside right when we signed on with Pete Davidson to be one of our key ambassadors, and then we decided to launch a big groomed energy campaign in May of 2022. It was something that our team had been working on for a long time. We knew that we had been doing things a little bit tame in the colorscape. So going into this like very bright, bold, new, big groomed energy campaign was exciting for us, and we wanted to tell the world that this is our brand now. This is an evolution for us. This is how bright and exciting you can feel and look with Manscaped. We developed 259 unique and visually striking ads. 300,000 square foot complex, as I'm sure many of you have been to Penn Station before. It's massive. And this was just a great opportunity for us to take it over. 6 million monthly riders. We had this up for a month. We feel we probably got to see quite a few people during that time, and that they engaged with our brand on more than one occasion. It was very splashy. It was great. We enjoyed it. There was a little bit of a digital spin to it. We intended to activate at the same time. As you guys know, campaigns can adjust and evolve. We decided to hold back on the digital component of it and launch that in Q4 this past year to serve as our like holiday campaign with this big groomed energy creative, but we had the link connection throughout all of New York City, and that was another great opportunity for us and really looked good. But again, just a few more photos of it. These are 100% share of voice 89 screens that we had our displays on. A lot of them were static, but or 11 were static, but most were video screens, so we could run full little blurbs and GIFs for us. That's about it.
Thank you, Lucas. We have time for questions.
Great presentation. A lot of fun with the different variations of the creatives. Much like Adore Me, did you see anything in the data of who the purchasers of the product are, or did it change, or has it changed, or how do you focus on who's actually buying the equipment?
It hasn't changed a ton. We do market to men and women, largely for like the purchase for your partner strategy. That happens a ton around Valentine's Day, around the holidays. People just kind of are at a loss for what to get their partner, and they're, oh, beard care, body care, let's make a hint. So that works a lot. That works really well, but it's still primarily the male demo, 18 to 44.
Tell us a little bit about the social activations that you were doing.
Sure.
Say on the both the Penn Station one and the rollout of the Pete Davidson partnership is one piece, but generally, how do you go about activating your ballers to be engaged? What's the process?
So they have their own dedicated Facebook group, and that's primarily it's private, so we'll engage directly with our community there. And then the broader way is just we'll post on our Instagrams, we'll do TikTok videos, we'll do quick little shorts or videos like we made here, and just put it out to people. There's no real limitation on just getting more eyeballs on social media, so why not? Digital is a little bit more of the comfortable space where we can go test some of our rogue creative. So we'll often do like an A/B test before we launch the taglines that we go with. We'll run what we're running traditionally, and then we'll put it up against this new creative or this new tagline to see if it spawns more clicks or purchase power.
So great presentation. It's great to see you're leveraging at a home and expanding and convincing your CFO that it works. Are there any plans to, it looks like this was done more of a direct campaign, any plans to use programmatic channels and potentially leverage some programmatic media from other channels for at home?
You know, we're certainly open to it. I think that's another reason why I'm here, is to just kind of see what else is out there. I get pitched constantly, but it's great to actually go out with some intent. So that's certainly something I'd like to look more into and see if it's a fit for us this coming year or a couple years.
I'm interested in the integration of this creative with the larger creative for the campaign. I mean, you, like Zell, sort of took the route of using a lot of taglines, using language rather than image, simply having the product image usually in the bottom. How is this reflected and integrated in your other digital campaigns, especially online and over video? And why are you making these choices for out of home?
It's a great question. I would say that, you know, our broader approach is to run digitally. So we do a lot of like lead-ins on YouTube and things like that. So we'll run these same clips from our out-of-home placements like what we had running around New York. We'll make sure that those are running in New York before a YouTube lead-in, things like that. Pete was a huge part of our brand announcement last year, and we had a couple commercials running out with him. He was not in any of our big groomed energy creative, but we did come out with a couple of pieces that included him for digital. So we made that connection online, not so much in our placements at Penn Station.
And how are you using so when you're using social activations, how are you measuring success there? I mean, is that a viable measurement of your success? Are you counting hits? Do you have a metric that you're using against the influencer amplification?
So it's just a nice to have for the most part. Like we just view it as like, oh great, these guys are willing to do it. We're going to run these campaigns with these influencers anyways. Let's do an extension of that and make sure it includes our out of home. We can tell pretty quickly when it's abnormally clicked or has more likes than usual, more comments than usual, and then often these influencers are including codes, so we'll see if that code specifically had any lift. I haven't seen anything substantial from it. It's just more of just a best practice for us to get more awareness around our placements.
Are you finding, since you mentioned that you're playing around in Ireland, you felt as if you could use your humor a little more openly? Is Europe generally more open to clever and provocative taglines than the U.S. market?
No, I'd say U.S. is very open. Australia, Ireland, and Germany and the UK have all taken to our humor pretty well, so that's where we use it the most. But when we launched in the UAE and Kingdom of Saudi Arabia this last year, we knew we had to dial it back quite a bit for that market. France, we dialed back quite a bit, Spain as well. So we've got a long list of these different creatives that we've tested in that A/B testing way and figured out what we think would work. So now we're just ready to go. We feel like we have a bunch of out-of-home ready creative, and when the right opportunities come up, we can press play pretty quickly.
Did you ever have a theory of the case in the UK market where those underground ads were actually seemed to be sparking spikes in your email subscriptions? Did you guys ever figure out or have a theory of the case of what was making that connection, how it was driving consumer behaviors?
You know, we don't really know, or we didn't spend enough time to really figure out what it was that made that conversion for us, but it really did happen for that 2-week window and then fall off again right afterwards. So there was something about it, and I mean, anecdotally, I heard from quite a few of our partners that work in the UK that they would just be sitting around. It was very like water cooler talk, like, oh, did you see that Manscaped ad? Which is rare to have that from a campaign you're running in a subway.
When I saw it, it suggests to me that you were sort of that they were buying into your tone, and they were buying into they believed in your editorial voice, and that was one of the things that they were subscribing to. This was a cool voice. We wanted to hear more from this voice. And
I think
that might have been what the
providing humor for us is something that makes it a really easy barrier to entry. Like, our consumers enjoy what we send them. We don't overload them. We don't send them stuff that doesn't like have some sort of edge or value to them. And the humor is a big piece of it. So we just released a John Daly commercial this last January, and it's been one of our most viewed commercials. We actually see that I think it's 83% are watching it all the way through as a YouTube lead-in, which is great. So we feel like people, like you said, adopt our language, adopt our voice, and really enjoy the content we put out there. So.
And finally, since your roots are in D2C, even though you have extensive retail presence now, is this principally being seen as a retail driver? Are you comparing the impact of this at retail versus D2C? And how can have you come up with any conclusions about how much out-of-home drives, whether online or into retail?
It worked really well for the Tesco campaign in the sense that Tesco itself was just very pleased to see that we were activating around their locations, around their storefronts, and they felt it added foot traffic for Manscaped products. I think that we would continue to do that as we launch in future European retailers or potentially domestic as well.
Do you consider D2C bumps out of that simply gravy, or is that part of the plan?
I think it depends on the campaign. If we're launching a campaign specifically for Tesco or a new retailer, then we'll be driving for that and focusing on that. And then all of the additional D2C is gravy. But then, I think with all of this, it's just one piece of the huge puzzle. So,
Lucas Quayle, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.